Everybody, let's spend a little bit of time talking about some more complex ionic compounds and parts of ionic compounds. And these are some of the polyatomic ions. And so if we can name some of these polyatomic ions, that's going to help us tremendously when naming the vast majority of compounds that you're going to run into in this class and some of the other chemistry classes you would take. So an oxoanion, this is a special type of anion. Okay, we can break this down. A negatively charged group, or negatively charged ion. And this is an oxo coming from oxygen. And we know that there are polyatomic ions. So if we had to guess, if we were going to compare to find out what an oxoanion is, if we compared NO3 1- versus something like Cn-, okay? They're both anions, but which one's going to be the oxoanion? This guy, okay? This is the one with oxygen in it. Right, this one is not an oxoanion. It is a polyatomic ion. It is an ion with a negative charge that has more than one atom in it. So it is a polyatomic ion, but it is not an oxoanion. So the vast majority of ions that we deal with in this sort of basic chemistry are oxoanions. So let's spend a little bit of time doing naming those oxoanions. Okay, so I'm going to draw a box. Okay, I call this the 8 box, and it's here to here. So I have a periodic table that's kind of cut off so that I can put it here. Okay, so this is the 8 box. Within the 8 box, okay, notice there are 9 elements. Chemistry is the only subject where 8 can equal 9. Okay, and so inside here, 8, and I'm going to spell it this way, that the ending 8 means 4 oxygens. Okay? And then, if it's outside of the box anywhere, now typically outside the box is from here down to here. There are cases like manganese, which is kind of over here, that also applies to this. Okay? But here, if it's inside this box, if you have silicon with 4 oxygens to it, that polyatomic ion is going to have the ending 8. So this is the 8 box where 8, not only does 8 equal 9, but 8 equals 4 oxygens. Okay, so 8 equals everything but 8. Okay, that's what I always say. So inside this box, 8 is 4 oxygens. And that is going to be your anchor. That is going to be what you know in order to name the other polyatomic ions in the oxoanion family. So let me give you an idea of what's going on. Okay, let me write an example. If I have SO4 2-. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for the non-oxygen atom. The non-oxygen atom is inside the 8 box. Okay? Now, so that's inside the 8 box. So that ending, ATE, applies to 4 oxygens. Does this have 4 oxygens? Yes, it does have 4 oxygens. So that means that this name is sulfate. Okay? It's not sulfide. Okay, sulfide is just the anion without the oxygen. The 8 ending gives it 4 oxygens here. To contrast, let's look at something like ClO3-. Okay, now, where is chlorine? Chlorine is outside the box. So because chlorine is outside the box, 8 equals 3. Okay, so this is 3 oxygens when it's outside that box. And just as a healthy aside, notice that it's all the S's here that are inside the box. So the box encompasses sulfur, silicon, tin, and tellurium. Selenium is also inside the box. So that gives you some good corners to know where the box is. Anyways, so chlorine is outside of the box. Okay, outside the box means that this guy is going to have 3 oxygens in order to be an 8. How many oxygens does this have? 8, or 3. So that's going to be an 8. So this is the chlor 8 ion. Okay? If you know where the 8 is, then you can do the rest of them. Okay? So the examples that I have, not the examples, but the names are from here, we can figure out. If you have the prefix per with the ending 8, that means that we have 1 more oxygen than the 8 ending. Hyper, if somebody is hyper, they are above and beyond. That's where that per comes from. Okay, so we're saying that it has more above and beyond the 8, and it's 1 more oxygen. Okay, now ite, okay, is 1 less oxygen. And so if we're in here inside the box, okay, and it has 3 oxygens, the ending for that polyatomic ion would be ite. And then hypoite, 2 less oxygens. Okay, so if we are inside the box and we have 2 less oxygens than 8, so if we have 2 oxygens total, which is 2 less than 4, okay, it will have the hypo prefix and ite suffix. So hypo, again, means a less than. If somebody is hypoglycemic, it means they're not getting enough sugar. They have less sugar than normal. Okay, and so then there's some rules. Like, so if we're going from a name to a formula, how do we know that what the charge is? Well, it turns out, with the exception of carbon ions and nitrogen ions, okay, all of these elements, all of these polyatomic ions have the charge of the non-oxygen atom. So chlorate, it has a charge of 1 minus. Now you don't have to put the 1. I do sometimes, just so it doesn't look like a thing. Okay, if I have BrO3, that is a 1 minus. That is the bromate thing, because I know the charge because bromine itself has a 1 minus charge. The only exceptions are carbon. Carbon will, if it's in a compound, in an ion, it will be a 2 minus charge. And nitrogen, like all of its family outside here, will have a 1 minus charge when it's in a polyatomic ion. So nitrate 1 minus. Okay, so there's a couple of ways that you can figure that out. Okay, so there are also some, let's do some samples. Okay, this is good. Sample naming oxoanions. Okay, so I'm going to draw the box. If I were you, I would try to name these things and see if you can do it on your own, and then see if you're right. Okay, so the box helps me identify where 8 is. So now this is 3 oxygens. Okay, so this is N is outside the box. So that's, if it's outside the box, 8 is 3. So there's 3, so this is the nitrate ion. And we put ion in there because it's not a compound, it's a polyatomic ion. Okay, and now this PO3. So this is here. Phosphorus is in the box. So 8 equals 4. Well, there's 3 oxygens, so that's 1 less. So now, let's see, 8 is 4. 8 is 1 less, so that's 3. So this is going to be the phosphite ion. Okay, and now here we go. Sulfur. Sulfur's in the box. So if it's in the box, sulfate, let's see, 8 is 4. How many? 8 is 4 oxygens. How many oxygens does it have? 4. So this is definitely the sulfate ion. Okay, so now I made a mistake here. Okay, I didn't mean to make a mistake, but hey, you know, these videos aren't supposed to be perfect. Let's look at what I have. I'm gonna erase this. Okay, now what should the charge be on this polyatomic ion? Well, we could figure it out. It's super easy. What's the charge on the non-oxygen atom? What's the charge on the chlorine when it makes an ion? It's a minus charge. Okay, so this should be 1 minus, like that. So now what is this name of this polyatomic ion? Okay, well, chlorine is here. It's outside the box. So if it's outside the box, 8 is 3 oxygens. This only has 1 oxygen. There's nothing there. So if there's only 1 there, has 2 less oxygens than it does. So this is going to have the hypo prefix. Hypo. Helps if I spell hypo correctly. Okay, it's going to have the hypo prefix. This is going to be hypo, meaning way less oxygens, and then it's going to be hypochlorite ion. Okay. Now bromine, I don't know why this periodic table is bad, but that should be a Br there. Okay. But so that Br is outside the box again. So if it's outside the box, 8 is 3. 8 equals 3 when it's outside the box. Here, inside the box, 8 equals 4 oxygens. This is the number of oxygens, right? Okay, so this has not 3, but it has more oxygens. So this is going to be more than 3 oxygens, and that 1 more, now we have to put the prefix, that's the per, so we're going to do per bromate ion. Okay, so that's naming polyatomic ions. It's going to take you a little bit, but I definitely would try to practice this. Okay, before we so have fun.